coursing through my veins. There is power. Get on board and grab the reins. There is power to give me all that I desire. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. I've got that burning fire. There is power coursing through my veins. There is power. Get on board and grab the reins. There is power to give me all that I desire. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. I've got that burning fire. I've been struggling, trying to get by, never acknowledging the power I hold inside. But then I thought about it and talked about it. I prayed about it and acted on it. And that's when that still small voice said, there's nothing you can't be, nothing you can't have, nothing you can't do, because you are in me as I'm in you. Oh, that's when I knew there is power. Come on, let's sing it. Coursing through my veins. There is power. Get on board and grab the reins. There is power to give me all that I desire. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. I've got that burning fire. There is power coursing through my veins. There is power. Get on board and grab the reins. There is power to give me all that I desire. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. I've got that burning fire. I've had so many dreams, I thought I might as well not try. Tired of doubting and failing, this mountain is too high. But then I thought about it and talked about it, prayed about it and acted on it. And that's when that still small voice said, there's nothing you can't be, nothing you can't have, nothing you can't do, because you are in me as I'm in you. Oh, that's when I knew there is power coursing through my veins. There is power. Get on board and grab the reins. There is power to give me all that I desire. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. I've got that burning fire. There is power coursing through my veins. There is power. Get on board and grab the reins. There is power to give me all that I desire. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. I've got that burning fire. Power. Come on now. Coursing through my veins. Power. Get on board and grab the reins. There is power to give me all that I desire. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. I've got that burning fire.
I have to admit, there was a very long time that I didn't know that I had that coursing through my veins. And it wasn't until I got into Unity that I found out. But I grew up believing I was a Christian. I was a very confused Christian, but I was a Christian. You see, my father was a Methodist, and my mother was a Presbyterian. And we moved a lot. And wherever we lived, we attended either the Presbyterian church or the Methodist church. Which one depended on which of the ministers my dad preferred. And so you see, I probably grew up developing a split spirituality. When I was old enough to make my own decision, I chose to be agnostic. Now, I never got involved with either theology. Intellectually, I was a late bloomer. As a very squirmy kid, I had other interests. I couldn't have described any ways the Methodists were different from the Presbyterians. I thought they were just two different names for the same boring thing. I went because that's what our family did on Sunday. I suppose I missed the point of something. Apparently, the Methodists and the Presbyterians are different. That well-known North Carolina Senator Sam Ervin told about a preacher who pointed out their differing beliefs regarding predestination. He said that the Presbyterians believe that everything is predestined. God has planned every little thing that any of us do or say throughout our lifetime. According to this belief, God knows ahead of time which ones of us are going to heaven and which of us are going to hell. Presbyterians, he said, believe that humans have no way of changing that plan. In all my Sundays in Presbyterian Sunday school, I do not remember anybody saying that. But I didn't have a very long attention span, so I was probably concentrating on my faculty of imagination. I was very good at imagination. Now, the Methodists, on the other hand, do not believe in predestination. According to Senator Ervin, they don't think anything was planned ahead of time. They believe that when anything happens, God is just as surprised as anybody else. Now, I never heard that idea either. For me, the subject never came up until I got into Unity. Now, if I had been listening, I would have been skeptical about predestination. After all, I was agnostic. I was skeptical about God. That's what agnostics are. They're skeptics. Predestination wasn't ever likely to enter into my thinking. But in spite of this, I was fascinated by the Bible. Now, the Bible reinforced my doubts about predestination. In chapter 2 of the book of Genesis, God commanded Adam and Eve not to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. They did it anyway. Why did they do it? Well, if God planned out everything they did, then God must have made them do it. First, God commanded them not to do it. Then that same God made them do it, but blamed it on the serpent. And then kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden for doing it. What a God. Now, how about chapter 6? This is where God saw that the wickedness of humankind was great on the earth. I quote, "The Lord was sorry that he had made humankind on the earth." How could this be? If God had been pulling all the strings. If that's true, God made humankind wicked. Then God carried out the first act of genocide, sparing only the family of Noah. What a God. Now, I was saved from all this confusion by Unity teaching. Unity was a great fit for me because it allowed me to believe in God and still be a skeptic. I learned to believe in predestination, but not the kind where God pulled all the strings. You see, Unity taught me that God created me in its own image and likeness. I'm just loaded with God characteristics. According to Unity's co-founder, Charles Fillmore, I've got 12 of those characteristics. I know I've got them, and I'm affirming that you've got them too. All human beings are related that way. We've all got those 12 God characteristics. Charles Fillmore called them the 12 powers of man. I'm sure Charles meant to include women as well. Using the term man to mean humankind was just the way of the time. And I'm guessing that Myrtle probably mentioned it to Charles. In a nice way, I'm sure. Now, y'all know what those characteristics are. They get described in this sanctuary every Sunday one way or another. We don't always call them by name, but we do talk about them. Faith, strength, judgment, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, renunciation, and life. Those are the 12. Sound familiar? Well, they should. I've heard Reverend Todd speak about them more than once. And I've got them all, and you've got them all. Even your least favorite politician's got them all. Even Vladimir Putin's got them. If that doesn't do it for you, fill in the blank if you like. We've all got them, even if it doesn't always show. Now, the reason it doesn't always show is because God doesn't pull all the strings. God has not planned out everything that we say or do. God has planted these gifts in a place we have to go out of our way to find. Our consciousness. It's a choice we make, or not. Now, I know you've all checked into your consciousness lately, but I'll bet you know some people who haven't. And one of the best ways to understand the 12 powers is to ask yourself, which of the 12 is most important? Which of the powers do you believe is most important? Think about it. Faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, renunciation, or life? It's not an easy question to answer, is it? The most frequently mentioned is the power of love. How many times have we affirmed that God is love? Now, I don't have a good argument against the importance of love. In fact, I love it. But I'll bet you know somebody who's not backed up his or her love with wisdom. I've been there, done that. What about love without the faculty of zeal or enthusiasm? I've been accused of that too. Faith and wisdom also get mentioned a lot, but what is faith without wisdom or understanding? You all know people who have faith in Murphy's Law. Their faith would have them believe that if anything can go wrong, it will. That's faith. Now, we usually end up concluding that all 12 of the powers are equally important because they all rely on each other. So I can't tell you that one is more important than all the rest, but I can tell you that I do have a favorite. And I doubt you could guess which one it is, though after Deidrey's song, you probably can. Your favorite doesn't have to be the same as my favorite. Each of us is a unique individual. It's a very personal preference. I like power. It's one of the 12 powers, and it sounds funny calling it the power of power, so I'll refer to it as the faculty of power. Now, the faculty of power is easily misunderstood, and for a long time I was confused by it. So I looked up the word power in the dictionary. My Webster's New Universal Unabridged Dictionary listed 26 different definitions for power. In my experience, the most widely accepted definition is the one that states, and I quote, "the possession of control or command over others." Political ascendancy comes to mind too. I've gotten into debates on these concepts, and I know people for whom controlling other people was very appealing. It's not a concept that ever appealed to me. And neither one of us knew what we were talking about in a spiritual sense. We both thought power was the ability to make other people do what you wanted them to do. That other person with whom I debated shall remain unnamed. But you all know somebody who fits the description. Blank liked the idea, and I didn't. Have I ever mentioned that on the Enneagram I have a peacemaker personality? As I said, neither one of us had the right idea. I was probably even further out in left field because I didn't know that power was a desirable characteristic. Nor did I know that I was imbued with it. It took me a while to catch on because the descriptions I read all confused me. I wondered, why am I not getting it? Then one day it hit me. I saw my answer first in a little book titled How to Use Your 12 Gifts from God by a New Thought minister named William Warch. He said, power is not for controlling other people. Power is my ability to change my thoughts and feelings. This implies that I have choices. So much for predestination. It means that I can choose my thoughts and emotions, and I consider this one of the greatest powers I've been given. You and I and everyone else have freedom of choice. Other rights may be taken from us, but I am the only one in charge of what I think and feel. To me, this is the true faculty of power. Now here's why I like the power faculty so much. I have the other 11 powers or faculties, but by themselves, all they are is potential. They don't mean a thing until I choose to use them. Or I choose how to use them. On an Easter Sunday not long ago, Reverend Catherine spoke to us about resurrection. And that was an appropriate topic for Easter, but resurrection's an appropriate topic for any day. There is no day when we cannot wake up and begin again. And that was Catherine's message. Now, the book of Genesis tells us that all humankind are created in the image and likeness of God. And for much of my life, I overlooked that verse. I'm thankful that it was reinforced by Unity's second foundational principle. We recited it this morning. Human beings have a spark of divinity within them, the Christ Spirit within. Their very essence is of God, and therefore they are also inherently good. Now, this is all about you, and it's all about me. This is our original undying state. That's who I am. That's who you are. That's who your least favorite person is. And we already know that divinity doesn't always show up in some people. I'm not naming any names, but you know who they are. And that's where resurrection comes in. Charles Fillmore defined resurrection as the restoring of mind and body to their original undying state. There is no time when those unnamed individuals cannot begin again. Now, I'm still not naming any names, but those unnamed individuals could be any one of us. Resurrection begins with making choices. Each one of us must make the choice. Fortunately, each one of us has the freedom to make that choice. God sets the stage, but God does not pull the strings. We play our roles in God's production, or we ad lib according to our egos. Guess which way offers the best chance for us to star in the show. In her book, Your God-Given Potential, Reverend Winfred Hausman gives us a useful affirmation. Under God's direction, I carefully choose my thoughts, words, and feelings. First, we choose to accept God's direction. We get in tune with our 12 gifts from God, and then we choose our thoughts, words, and feelings. Then we will know how to act out our parts in God's plan. Now, some of you probably noticed this was the main point of Jesus' teachings. Jesus taught that to seek the kingdom, we must look within ourselves. Now, take note that if God is pulling all the strings, none of us would have to look anywhere. God would just take us there. Most of us know that isn't what happens. We've had to work at it. Those of us seeking the kingdom do so only because we've chosen that path. How do we choose the right path? In his book, Discover the Power Within You, Eric Butterworth told this story. A traveler in ancient Greece had lost his way, and seeking to find it, asked directions of a man by the side of the road. This man, it turned out, was Socrates. "How can I reach Mount Olympus?" asked the traveler. To this, Socrates is said to have gravely replied, "Just make every step you take go in that direction." The answer is to discern what it is you really want. Then choose to make every step you take go in that direction. And Jesus taught the same concept. You've heard the parable of the pearl of great price. Jesus explained how a merchant found one pearl of great value. He wanted it so much that he sold everything he had so he could buy it. Now, the first time I heard this, I didn't understand it. Then it was explained to me that, like all parables, it meant something to Jesus' listeners. In Jesus' time, people placed great value on pearls. In fact, there was a folk belief that one who owned a pearl would always be happy. So the pearl in this parable represents something very important not only to the merchant, but to Jesus' listeners, and by extension, to you and to me. The merchant's the actor. He's the person who makes the choice. Through his wisdom, he chooses to give up all that he has in order to own the pearl. In other words, by making this choice, he gains the kingdom. To claim our share of the kingdom, we also must choose. We have to let go of all sorts of limiting beliefs about ourselves. They keep us from accepting ourselves as heirs to the kingdom of God with its love, joy, and peace. Now, I spent a large period of my life comfortable with my limiting beliefs. And it's not easy It's not an easy choice to make if those limiting beliefs have been part of our comfort zones. And that's why resurrection may be a daily necessity. I can begin again, making choices every day. And I daily affirm making the right choices. Now, whether or not I make good choices depends on my level of consciousness. And Jesus thought about that as well. Consider the parable of the sower. This is from the Gospel of Mark. Jesus told about a farmer who went out to plant a crop. As he scattered the seeds, some fell on the path and were eaten by birds. Some fell on rocky soil and were scorched by the sun. Some fell among thorns, and the plants were choked and failed to produce. The seeds that fell on good soil produced in abundance. Now, Jesus' listeners would have understood that what he was talking about. Their livelihood depended on a great harvest. Jesus hoped they would perceive the metaphysical meaning of his parables. Some people got it, and some people didn't. The parable itself explains why. The four conditions of the soil Jesus described represent four levels of human consciousness. The different soils respond differently to the same type and quality of seed. Various people respond differently to the same spiritual ideas and teachings. The seeds represent spiritual ideas. The sower represents the teacher who introduces divine ideas to the soul. This could be a teacher or a guru. Even more often, it could simply be the Christ consciousness within each of us. In some people, the consciousness is like the hard, compacted soil. These people are the negative thinkers and the dogmatists. They're not open to new ways of thinking. They hear the ideas, but the seeds don't take root. When we receive these divine ideas, we need to become firmly established in our subconsciousness. Only there will they develop deep roots. To get them firmly rooted, we have to nurture them with care. Simply accepting an idea doesn't do it. Practicing the presence through affirmation, prayer, and meditation make a big difference. The thorny soil represents a consciousness that lets in distractions. It allows ideas other than the Christ ideas to crowd out the planted seeds and stunt their growth. We must choose to practice the presence. We must focus on what we want. The idea is to stake your claim where the soil is good. The good soil represents those among us who are open and receptive to the Christ within. Here, the seeds thrive and produce yield beyond what we normally expect. These are the people who recognize their divine inheritance and think, speak, and live according to their Christ nature. They choose to utilize all 12 of their gifts from God. They are the ones who experience the kingdom of heaven. The good news is that it's never too late for resurrection or a new beginning. And this was the message Jesus gave us in the parable of the prodigal son. To make a long story short, a young man asked his father for his inheritance and then went to a far country to sow his wild oats. And he had fun for a time. But when famine struck the land, things went downhill rapidly. When he became desperate, he saw the error of his ways and returned home. Now, much to the surprise of Jesus' listeners, his father forgave the prodigal son. He not only forgave him, he laid out a feast in honor of the son's return. Now, the parable doesn't approve the dissolute life, nor minimize the negative results. It makes no excuse for bad judgment of youth. It does say that no matter where we've been or what we've done, there is a way out. It is never too late to begin again. Now, the prodigal son may represent any one of us. I know it represents me. What about you? Have you ever strayed into behavior you knew wouldn't bring your highest and best? Now, the far country represents where we are when we expect our destiny to result from external causes. Now, I know you're always focused on the Christ within, but I'm sure you know people who look for abundance outside themselves. In many ways, this parable sums up the spiritual history of the human race. The Old Testament describes ancient Israel in this way. Again and again, it tells of the Israelites straying from God's commandments. Every time they strayed, they experienced defeat in battle, plagues, and famine. Then a prophet came along and challenged them to choose. He led them back to unity with God and restored prosperity. But no matter what they had done, the Israelites always regained God's favor. Now, the Father in this parable represents God. Jesus described the Father who revealed his nature through love, grace, and forgiveness. And we remind ourselves that Jesus intended his parables for all of us. We are the merchant who may choose the pearl. We are the soil receiving and choosing to nurture the seeds. We are the prodigal son. In a sense, few of us have been perfect. Yet God's gifts are always present, waiting for us to claim them. But a recent Science of Mind Daily Guide advises us. It says, it takes practice to be rooted in truth. It takes commitment to be free to be the full expression of God. Yes, it may take some effort, commitment, and time. But once you start down that path, know that the God in you will guide and direct your every thought, word, and action. Know that you are now being supported in ways you may not see in this moment. Don't worry about a thing. Just keep going. Now, I keep returning to the question of which faculty is most important, and I express my interest in this faculty of power which gives me the gift of choosing what I think and feel. The trying to answer that question reminds me of that old conundrum. What came first, the chicken or the egg? I can make an equal argument for any of the other 11 faculties. Just for example, the faculties of love, faith, or any of the other 11 would no doubt influence any choices I make. Let's face it, the 12 powers are interdependent. Now, a few nights ago, NBC News quoted a woman who'd recently overcome a crisis in her life. She said, "There is so much power in what we train our minds to think." Now, the good news is we've all got all 12 powers, and we all have been blessed with the freedom of choice. We can experience the kingdom of heaven right here, right now, if that is what we choose. Thank you.
Wow, what a beautiful and powerful message. Thank you so much. Wow. I think I will sing this song because you inspired me. The only one with the power to choose the direction of my life is me, no matter what's done to me, no matter what's done for me, no matter what is happening all around me. The only one with the power to choose the direction of my life is me. My life is me. And let us prepare ourselves for meditation. Is me.
As we prepare for our time of meditation, I share with you these words from the Apostle Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. For what human being knows what is truly human except the human spirit that is within? So also, no one comprehends what is truly God's except the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit that is from God, so that we may understand the gifts bestowed on us by God. And we speak of these things in words not taught by human wisdom, but taught by Spirit, interpreting spiritual things to those who are spiritual. I invite you now to become quiet and relaxed and comfortably supported in your chairs. Shift your awareness from the spirit of the world to the spirit that is from God. Shift your awareness to your heart space from where spiritual guidance enters your consciousness. And allow these words to be your words. I choose to be aligned with spirit, knowing that I find my true power within. Guided by spirit within, I claim the freedom to express my full and glorious potential. My true power frees me to be all that I am. I am imbued with the same creative power and intelligence that created all there is. I claim the right to be the author of my story. No matter what happens, I choose the meaning I give to events in my life. I am free to love, to laugh, to fully live the abundant life I am divinely inspired to create. Choice by choice, I bring into awareness a state of mind that Jesus described as the kingdom of heaven. My life is a reflection of my expectations, and for this day, I expect good. What may seem new has always been available, and it is revealed as I open myself to spirit now, in the silence. Under God's direction, I carefully choose my thoughts, words, and feelings. I am most powerful when I allow God power to flow through me. The seed of faith within me expresses through every choice I make. I choose to sow only positive thoughts, and I expect to harvest abundant blessings. I keep my thoughts centered on only those things that I want to have happen in my life. I speak my words with authority and conviction. I know I am one with God. All my needs are met now. I claim the power to be joyful in this day, and I am grateful. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
The only one with the power to choose the direction of my life is me. Is me. No matter what's done to me, no matter what's done for me, no matter what is happening all around me. The only one with the power to choose the direction of my life choose.